Tired of this rain. I am so behind on grass and yard work. It's just, sometimes it gets overwhelming.
Yeah, well, welcome to Pittsburgh. I think we actually get more rain here than Seattle now.
Yeah, it feels like it, that's for sure.
All right, we're live. Welcome to the Third Due First In podcasts. I'm Keith Hennon. I'm here with my good friend Geno.
Hey, everybody.
Before we dive in tonight, I just want to welcome everybody to our first public live stream of our podcast. We're pretty excited so far how it's going. Last week, we released one on Sunday. Had over 700 views so far. Pretty ecstatic with the amount of views we got on that video already. But before we dive in tonight, I want to give a huge shout out to our new sponsor, FireCam.com. They're a firefighter-owned company making helmet cams, body cams. They have drones. They have flashlights, helmet flashlights that they make. Very top-notch, high-quality products. I know a while back, our fire department was looking to get in the cam to try to get some footage, and we got the GoPro, and we did a live burn. And probably within 10 minutes of going into the live burn, it shit the bed. It's just not made, I guess, for the high heat. But I know a couple guys. Your son,
Sullivan has a GoPro. I got a.
It's not the GoPro. It's the FireCam. The helmet cam.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But he has a GoPro. I don't know if he still uses that thing or not.
I don't know. I think I know he's got the FireCam on his helmet. Another one of our guys has a FireCam on his helmet, and they make really good videos. Actually, in our intro video, we actually have some footage from a FireCam. But they're going to be sponsoring us. We're going to be doing some giveaways with them, as everybody's aware. We're going to be doing the giveaway on YouTube for the first 500 subscribers. We're going to get a drawing, and somebody's going to win a free FireCam Mini. So yeah, check them out. Go to their website, firecam.com. They got a lot of good stuff. Great company, high quality products. So what's new with you, Gene?
Nothing really. I mean, work wise, we've had a couple retirees and a couple promotions. Good friend of mine, both the gentlemen that were promoted to deputy chief and captain of the fire department. Life wise, really just home.
Yeah, you guys have a lot of retirements there lately.
Yeah. It's the way the department. It's really a rapid change right now. We went from, and I could be wrong with these numbers, but a median age in the 50s to now a median age in probably the 30s, which is amazing. It's really, really, really a great thing. But other than that, just normal life stuff. Put a starter on my truck this morning. Other than that,
how's it running?
It's awesome. Nice. Nothing like a 71 Ford, man. Nothing like it.
All right, we'll jump into the news that we're going to cover this week. So Senate Bill 90 was the first thing we're going to talk about. The House and State Senate passed a bill. So it changes something with the requirements for taking tests with, I was a little confused, firefighter one, essentials, exactly what it is.
I just came across it yesterday. Just read the brief, the Senate brief there. And from what I understand, I've been out of the essentials teaching for a little while now, but the essentials goes mod 1, 2, 3, and 4. And after each module, you take a test, the smaller test for mod 1 and then up and up. And it sounds to me like the testing now is going to be cumulative, being that if you pass firefighter 1, or if you pass mod 1, 2, 3, and 4, then the way I read it is you're going to get a pro board certification.
So you're a firefighter 1 now.
Yeah, that I could be wrong, and I'm hoping somebody in the comments maybe has a little bit more insight on it. But if that's the case, I think it's amazing, because that was always the issue. You would have firefighters. I would graduate a kid from Mod 4 and say, listen, wherever you're at, wherever your home department is, find a firefighter 1 test soon, because like we say in the fire service, that knowledge will just eventually fade away.
Yeah.
And if you don't do it right out of the gate, it's going to be a lot harder for a person to take that college level firefighter 1 pro board exam. It's not an easy test. So if this is going to help with the training, I am 100% for it.
Speaking of somebody joins in with the comments, we're going to start a giveaway. If somebody comments and we highlight your comment during the episode, we're going to enter you into a drawing for Amazon gift card. So later on, we're bringing our guest in. If you have any questions for him, feel free to drop a comment, and if we highlight your comment and it gets answered, we'll enter you to that drawing. But on to just a recap from last week, a couple things we talked about. The missing fire chief in Texas, Michael Phillips. Fortunately, it's still evolving situation. He's still missing. It's been days. I believe they found his vehicle, but they haven't found him yet. I guess it was witnessed. There was witnesses seeing his vehicle getting swept away when he was responding to the calls. But it looks like there's over 100 people reported dead there.
Yeah,
there's 180 that's still unaccounted for.
Yeah, it's a tragic situation down there, and it seems like every day the numbers are rising, and my heart and prayers go out to every single person that is affected by that, because people don't even realize that a person has passed, but in being involved in a recent death as my brother, how many people one person passing affects. Yeah. And then you talk about the massive number down there and the children. And last night watching the nightly news and just seeing all those little girls' faces, it's hard to wrap your head around it. It really is.
Yeah, so we're keeping good thoughts for Michael Phillips. Obviously, it's not looking good, but keeping good thoughts, and our thoughts and prayers to everybody affected by the situation going on down there. And recap the Idaho shooting from we talked about last episode. Just wanted to update the injured firefighter David Tisdale, 47. He's was in critical condition. They moved him up to stable condition, but he remains in the ICU. Sounds like he's going to have a long road to recovery. Apparently, the bullet went through his back, collapsed his left lung, fractured clavicle, shattered some ribs. He had some spinal swelling, and I guess currently he can't move his legs, but they think the swelling is going to go down, and hopefully he'll regain his movement in his legs. But I believe you got some information on the firefighters.
The IFF, both of the firefighters who passed were both IFF members from Local 710 and Local 2856. And their funeral arrangements have been set. The Battalion Chief, John Morrison Jr., God bless, he's being honored on July 10th at 11 a.m. And Battalion Chief Frank Harwood is being honored on July 11th at 11 a.m. Same place, 900 South Floating Green Drive in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. So God bless them again, and may they rest in peace. And really want to put my arms around those two fire departments, because that's a tough thing to deal with. I've been through it personally, and it's a tragedy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our thoughts with them, their family, their friends, and then also keeping the injured firefighter in our thoughts, and
yes,
hopefully a good full recovery for him. Moving on to our next story. So I don't know if you remember seeing about this, but a couple of years back, the federal government offered the old VA property. I don't want to say it's in Oakland. Where's that at?
It's right off of Washington Boulevard, basically across the street from the current City Fire Academy. Up on the hill is where Schumann Center is, and it's a huge piece of property. Yeah, so the federal government offered the city of Pittsburgh the property pretty much for free, but I guess the only requirements is they had to commit money to actually redeveloping the site and using it as a public safety center. It has to, and I think that's part of the requirement. It has to be a public safety center. But I just read recently in the news, actually a Tribune review article. Apparently the city's now divided on whether they want to go through with this. Apparently you have to spend $2 million for the training facility.
to upgrade the site up there. There's some talk, I don't even know what this is about, but some people were worried it was going to turn into a cop city, which I don't know what that's about. Some type of protest apparently in another area. Where
Yeah, I think it's Atlanta.
Like that.
I can't believe that there's actually politicians that are against police training, police, fire, EMS training, because from what I understand, it was going to be an all-encompassing facility up there in conjunction where Schumann Center is, and there was talks of reopening that, or if they did or not, I'm not sure. But we don't have enough training. We really don't, and especially law enforcement, where there's so many studies out now that say that these officers need continuous weekly training. It's almost like going to combat every day of your life for 25, 30-year career. That takes a toll on those officers, and the training, it would be amazing up there. It's secluded. I just can't understand why someone would even be against any of it.
And then the other thing is, from what I understand, like a lot of their current facilities are dilapidated.
Oh, absolutely.
From what I understand, the city fire sometimes actually goes out to North Park now.
They do all their burns at North Park because there's no burn facilities in the city of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, so it's ridiculous. I mean, it seems like politicians got to get their act together there in the city of Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Their police departments, several hundred officers in the areas right now. So,
yeah, they're really hurting.
Yeah, so hopefully get their act together. But that's it for all the news stories. I want to bring in our main guest now. It's going to be Captain Chris Chiprich from the Peters Township Fire Department. Bring you to the show. Welcome, Chip. Thanks for coming on.
What's happening, fellas? How are you?
Good. How you doing, man?
Doing well, thanks.
So, Chip, you want to just give us a little information about yourself, and we'll get right into it.
Sure. Like you guys know, I started in Pleasant Hills in 1998, right after I graduated out of high school. It's kind of all over the place, and I had a friend of mine called Stouffer that brought me down there, and I joined the fire department then, and that kind of found a love for it really fast. You know, my first experiences there were kind of funny with Robbie Richardson sitting there asking me if I wanted to be a fireman. And I was like, who is this guy? And it's pretty intimidating. But no, it was all good. And I pretty much, when I started there, I was welcomed with open arms. And I love Pleasant Hills and wish I could still be there. But my schedule doesn't let me do that. I owe everything to that place. But
we all do.
Right. Starting at Pleasant Hills, you guys did an insane amount of training. You guys were known for that. So that helped me to build my career and get to where I'm at today. And early on, I was able to get hired on just as a sub fireman in Wilkinsburg, just for a year, and I learned a lot there, which was great. And then after that, I got hired at Baldwin EMS, worked there for a good while, and worked with great guys there, and learned a lot on the rescue aspect of the fire service, and the medical side of things, and that helped build my career significantly. I had leave in Baldwin for a little bit and was in the Navy and had tried some other things, but had went back to Baldwin in 2005 and continued just to hone my skills and continue to become a better rescue technician and EMT. And then they sent me to become a paramedic, and I was a paramedic from then on. Still am National Registry paramedic, but during that time, I was obviously still pretty active with Pleasant Hills. In 2009, I got hired at Peters Township Fire Department part-time, and shortly after that, I ended up taking a full-time job at North Shebane, and I worked at North Shebane for 7 years and started as a fireman driver, and then became a captain there as well. And then I was very fortunate. I was able to vest my pension there, and then I transferred over to Peters full time, and I've been at Peters 15 years. I celebrated that in June.
Oh, congratulations!
Yeah, thank you. And I love Peters. It reminds me a lot of Pleasant Hills. All the guys are good there. I'm the captain for A-Line, and I worked with some tremendous people. I have great management, and the township's great to work for. The guys on my crew I'll put them against anybody. They're top notch, hard hitters. They're ready to get it, and love those guys to death. Yeah, I'm also a medical specialist on the PA USAR team. I'm also a PA wildland fireman, and I'm also the fire warden for Washington County. But outside of that, that's
I can see why you don't have time for Pleasant Hills.
what's that?
I
Yeah.
can see why you don't have time for Pleasant Hills.
Yeah, I also have a wife that I like to spend time with, and
That's a good
2
thing.
kids, an 18-year-old daughter Chloe, and a 13. She just turned 13 on the 7th. 13-year-old daughter Brooklyn. I'm also heavily involved with the church in the area. It's just a small church over in Pancake in South Shebang, and
Okay.
I'm involved with the church band, so that takes at least 2 of my days away with Sundays and Thursdays practicing. So I stay pretty busy. At least
Good for
try.
you, man.
Yeah.
Good
So
for you.
that's it. That's
Real quick. One thing is with Chip. Chip and I have a common. We have a lot of common friends, but the one common friend that he stole from me, Soto. He was a key sport guy, and he got hired in Peters full time, and we miss him dearly. So Russell, if you're watching, come back. Please come back.
He's mine right now. He's a great kid, and I work out with him constantly, and he's always
Good.
trying to compete, and he's
Yeah.
learned a lot.
He loves you, man. He loves you.
He's great. He's just willing to learn. He's willing to do the job, and that's what you need in the fire service. He's fearless too, and
He got a great backstory, man. He's a good guy.
he's great. Yeah, he's come up hard and came out positive. So
Yep.
So Chip, I think like ever since I've known you, you've always been involved in physical fitness. But
Yes.
just tell us a little bit about like what got you started in that. Like where did you
Yeah.
develop your passion for
I
physical?
mean, as a kid, I played sports. I was played football in middle school and high school, and my senior year I didn't play because, well, girls and partying were involved, so kind of took me away from it. But you guys know what I mean. But
Yeah.
my brother was a personal trainer and heavily involved with that. He also played football. He played football in college as well. And my brother was a big, inspiration for me for work, working out constantly. And so I was always heavily involved with that and then with sports. And so I got a good background with that. I was able to, with my brother, do personal training. And I worked at a couple studios in Shadyside, and we did some in-home personal training stuff. So I was able to build a background with that, and mostly with the help of my brother, and my brother's still heavily involved in fitness. He doesn't do it as a career, but he still is just as psychotic as I am. My brother's like me. He's like me on steroids in regards to personalities too. So you guys know how I am, but he could take it to a new level. Love to death. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of how my fitness, that's how I kind of got into that. And then getting into the fire service, obviously, when I started at Pleasant Hills, that was kind of a disaster. You know what I mean? Smoked, drank, did all kind of stuff. And, as I progressed, I went to the police academy in 99, and I couldn't run and smoke. You know what I mean? So what do? You chew tobacco, right? So I switched to that. But, that obviously helped pad a lot of my trying to get myself in shape for the job, and kind of took me from there. And you get into a couple good fires, and you realize real quick that you better be in shape and ready to do this job, or you're going to be made an example of really quick. So
I used to tell my students all the time, about physical, and again, I would be the last person you want to talk to about physical fitness, but I always tell my students, when you're getting that hoagie, just eat half of it.
Right.
That's all. Just eat half of it.
Yeah. So, I mean, my physical fitness is kind of built from there. I was always, heavily involved with working out. Doug, who we love to death, rest in peace. Him and I spent a ton of time in the gym together working out, and we lived together and grew up across the street from him. So he was always like a big brother to me as well. And him and I spent, it was our lives working out and trying to get bigger. And him and I would obviously work out, and we were at work, and it kind of just stemmed from there, and working out with guys at Peters. You guys know Chris Cersei. He's a great guy. He's, really done amazing stuff for himself. He got me involved with CrossFit and high intensity training, functional training. And, I kind of just built off of that. And working out with him, it was like, all right, this dude's 10 years older than me, and he can, snatch my soul up. So
In a minute. Yeah.
I was like, I better step up my game. So it was like started working at Peters, I was able to work with Chris, and he helped out a ton in regards to getting that fitness going. So
speaking of Chris, I got a really great story about him. Well, a lot of stories about him, but the one was I remember turning the bend in a house fire, and the stairs had burnt out. They were partially burnt out, and there was good fire on the second division. And Chris spider crawled up that burnt out steps, and I humped the hose and gave him the nozzle.
It's a beast, man.
Oh.
It still is. So, but yeah, I mean that kind of just took me from there, and it's a lifestyle for me, working out, and that's how you have to take that. It can't be just like, oh, I want to lose a couple pounds. My mindset is it's a warrior mindset. It's got to work out, got to stay in shape, got to keep good nutrition and diet, and I got to protect my guys, and they got to protect me. So my crew, I'm just as strong as Andrew or Will or Russell, and those guys all work out with me. I like to put them down, because I'm 20 years older than them, and I'll drag them around.
Yeah.
Love them to death. They know that. But, I try to be a model for those guys. I try to be a model for all the guys in my department, volunteer or career. It's a combination department, and I always try to push on these guys physical fitness and how important it is. This job will destroy your body. Working in EMS, how many guys have destroyed backs? My back, I have a ton of problems with my back, and working out and physical fitness helps me out tremendously to stay in shape, to keep my back strong so I can keep doing the job. And it's a big part of it. And I could talk about, the day in life of what I do in regards to that and how things work at work and why I do it. But, physical fitness is key to, I think, to keeping our jobs, to staying healthy in our jobs, for having a healthy retirement. And I got to be able to, the guy sitting next to me, I have to be able to trust him. I work with the minimal amount of staffing you could possibly have. During the day, I have a deputy chief there. I have a fire chief. I got 2 guys at Station 1, and I have 2 guys at Station 3. And that's it. Sometimes we're supplemented by an extra volunteer or another part-time staff guy. But it's go time. We have fires, and we cover a massive area.
Yeah, you do.
And you got to be ready. And we work in a very affluent area. So if I get off that truck, I look like a slob. One, they're going to judge me right off the bat. Right. And they want me to fix their problem ASAP. So, we got to be ready to go at all times, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so do my guys. And if there's a fire and I'm in there, I have to know that they're able to come in there and get me. So that way I know how far I'm going to push into that fire based off of who's out there. If I know the guy's out there as a slob, I'm probably not going to go in as far. I'm not going to push it as far. I mean, that's just what it is. You want to risk your life, to save somebody. That's great. But I also want to go home to my family and hug my wife when I come home and kiss my kids. So, that's why physical fitness is so important. I know that any of the guys in my turn, I can push it as hard as I can get it inside that building. If I have to call Mayday, I know those guys are risking it all to come get me. Just the same. I train my ass off, so I know that I'm able to get in there and help those guys out if they get in trouble. And then I'm also able to get in there and put the fire out and manage the 20 tasks that we got to manage with one person that, entire companies with 26 guys handle in one war. You know what I mean? So
been there, done that.
Stuff in perspective, there's no one else coming. You're it. We got career guys coming on callbacks. We got a couple, we work with North Shebang, so they're coming, but they're 15 minutes away. So our volley company's coming. So, I mean, when's all this action happen? When do guys get hurt? First minute of the fire, we're going in there. So these guys got to be ready and they got to be keyed up. And you guys talked about situational awareness in your last podcast, and it's extremely important for us, but it all relates back to physical fitness, diet, mental health, all of that. So.
Hey, Chip, so we were talking a little bit before about, not having time you wish you had time for Pleasant Hills. But obviously you have a very busy life. You got a lot going on. How do you fit this regimen into your daily activities in your life? I assume that, at work, you're allowed to work out.
Yep.
But outside of work, you doing workouts too? And how do you fit this all into your active life?
Yeah. So, I mean, just a day off for me, just because of my mental health, that has to be extremely regimented. I can't have idle hands. I will get in trouble, so I have to have my day essentially planned out. I don't write it out per se, but I got it written out in my head. And my wife will tell you, if I don't have things to do, then I get just overly anxious, antsy, and that's when things go downhill. But, I wake up early, and I typically I'm up by 5:30. When I'm days off, sleeping in 6:30. If we really push it at 7, my wife's the same way. Obviously breakfast is very important. I try to eat a healthy breakfast, and I can get into the diet side of things. I typically
Absolutely.
do like a Mediterranean style diet, but I try to focus on gut health and stuff like that in regards to eating Greek yogurt that's not flavored. I eat a lot of nuts and berries and stuff like that in the morning, and I use just a little bit of honey, a little bit of sweetener with it. I drink black coffee. I don't use a lot of sugar. And I get into that too as well, and why I don't. And then once I'm done with breakfast, I usually will sit down. I don't know how you guys are going to pull this into this, but I'm going to pull it in. But I'm extremely involved with the church, and my mental health is all based off of the Christian faith. And I spend time in the Bible. I read a chapter a day, and then I pray for my family, pray for the guys at work, and focus a lot on that. Once I'm done doing that, then it's typically I'm hitting the ice bath. You guys, we'll get into that stuff. There it is, man. Tropical little bank there. So I'll get into that thing real quick. You can buy these really expensive ice baths, but they're the exact same thing as that cooler there. So that's just an ice chest, and I sealed it. And I don't think you guys have the picture, but right above that is a little timer that controls it all. So I set the temperature and the parameters for it. So it's set at 40 degrees, and it'll alert me if it goes like 32 or goes up to 70 degrees. But I focus on that. The ice bath really helps, one, with my mental health. There's a ton of studies out there in regards to that stuff, and I'll talk about it a little bit. And it really helps with like inflammation and stuff in my back. And if I'm anxious or having anxiety that day, or I'm just being in a crappy mood, that just punches you right in the face.
Right.
I usually, depending on the temperature of it all, I'll last about 3 minutes, 30 seconds in there is what I typically try to do. You just got to be careful, and you have to build yourself up to that. I unplug it too, by the way, before I get in. Just so you guys know.
I have so many questions about that thing. What is it? It's this water just staying there.
Safety first. Yeah, so it's unplugged. You see it sitting there. It plugs into that plug up there. So it's sitting down there.
And the water just stays in there? Like
He said he sealed it.
I put chlorine in it. I don't know if you guys can see down there. There's like a net. I have chlorine and stuff. I have other ones that I didn't send you guys pictures of that have full filtration systems on it that sit outside. In the wintertime, they're amazing. It's shut down right now. I got it out behind my shed, but that's the one I have now.
Well,
and
just curious, what happens if while you're in there, Lindsay comes down and just shuts that lid?
You would probably like to. I've been trying to get her in there. I've been really on her about it. My wife obviously weighs 105 pounds soaking wet, but I'm gonna get her one day. I'm gonna get her in there, just so she can see what it does. I mean, it really does. When just to talk about that real quick, I mean, it really does help me out with my mental health. If you're anxious, feeling depressed, anxiety, anger, I mean, it just knocks it out of you for me. And that helps me out tremendously. And it helps out with the inflammation in my back and in my shoulders. And, once I'm done with that, I usually get out, and I don't typically go right straight into a workout with that. I'll try to do a couple other things until I warm up. And then I work out. These are the days I'm off. And my workouts typically last, and I do a lot of functional training. Obviously, the best thing for this job is functional training. I used to be really into CrossFit. I'm not into CrossFit so much as that, but I do implement it into my workouts. I do a lot of high intensity training workouts, but it's HIIT workouts. They're just high intensity interval training is what it stands for. And it's just a lot of high intensity workouts because our job has high intensity workouts. That's my home gym there. I pretty much got absolutely everything you can think of, that any other gym would have. The only problem with my ceilings are low, so a lot of times I have to go outside. That's in my garage. But so my workouts are functional training, and it's a lot of. I've gotten back into strength training from the CrossFit just because it's helped me out tremendously in regards to strengthening my back and any other type of weaknesses I have. That's our gym at Station 1. We get money every year through our union and through the township gives it to us, and we buy more equipment every year. And we're very blessed and very fortunate to have it, and we're able to utilize that every day. But once I'm done with my workouts, I do cardio. My cardio is usually high intensity stuff. I do a lot of sprints. I do a lot of rucks because I can't run. I used to run long distances. I did marathons and did ultra marathon stuff, and my back doesn't let me do that. And I did triathlons, and so now I do rucks, which is heavy. I have a 45-pound pack, and I usually do anywhere between 1 and 2 miles with that. Being on the wildland fire team, we're required to do a 3-mile ruck with a 45-pound pack in our fire boots, under 45 minutes, and we have to do it every year. And it sounds somewhat easy.
That sounds hard.
When you have to ask Brandon about it, like there's a technique to it. Like you have to lean forward into this thing, and we wear, they're a wildland fire boot, and they're somewhat heavy. And you got to click, man. You got to move. So I do a lot of that, just kind of training for that. My wife and I are on the 23rd this month. My wife and I are doing 70-mile hiking trail, the Laurel Highlands Trail. So we do a lot of rucks for that. I'm doing that for Doug, by the way. Doug and I always hiked that Laurel Highlands Trail, and Doug always wanted to hike the whole thing. And he actually tried doing it with Kurt D'Elia one time, and I think they got stuck in the rain, and Dan had to go pick him up.
Yeah, I dropped them off. And they called Dan to pick them up.
Dougie loved hiking out there, and
yeah, he did.
Me and Todd were going to do it, but Todd's dealing with some health stuff, so my wife is going to do it, and she's been kind of stepping up the past couple of weeks trying to train so that she doesn't, get injured or anything like that. But after I'm done working out, I do try to stretch. I do some yoga stuff. It's really important, and then I have to do other stuff. I play guitar, read books. I have to stay busy. Cook food and.
Absolutely. We not to interrupt, but Peters Township Fire Department actually gave us a lot of workout equipment back 4, 5, 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Which spawned Brandon and another guy, Matt, in our department, and they ended up getting grants, and we just got 2 brand new gym, one in each firehouse, and it's amazing. They're really nice. I mean, it's top of the line stuff. It's really neat. Yeah,
it's nice. That's awesome. You guys got that grant. We got some of our dumbbells back for Station 3. So
did you?
Yeah. But that's my typical day. And diet wise, my wife and I, focus heavily on that. I ate a plant-based diet for 7 to 8 years, and I was 175 pounds. But I did a lot of triathlon stuff with that. I was always running, always swimming, always biking, and had lost a tremendous amount of weight. And I think plant-based diets are great, but and I did it for 7 years, and I still relatively eat that. I eat a Mediterranean diet, which adds in small amounts of protein in regards to chicken and fish and just some red meats, not a lot, but small portion size, like you said about eating half the hoagie, not the whole hoagie.
Right.
And, just smaller portion sizes. And, I typically will eat 3 square meals a day. I'll maybe add 1 or 2 in there. It helps kind of boost your metabolism, especially as I get older. But, I try to eat, and once you feel full, you got to quit, and a lot of guys, especially American, we overeat everything, right?
Yeah.
And I watch it every day. I watch guys just eat a tremendous amount of food while at work, and it just dumbfounds me. It kills me, and I have to keep my mouth shut. In the past, I would just let people have it. And, now I'm like, I can't do that anymore.
You're a boss now. You can't.
My boss told me I can't do that anymore. But anyways, I just see that, and I get back to that whole entire thing about being physically fit and how far am I going to push into this building. All right. Well, I just ate a easy cooked meal, and it's small enough, and it filled me up, and it's nutritious, and it's going to fuel my body. and my body's gonna be able to use it as fuel, and it's not gonna slow me down. And I just watch this dude over here eat his body weight in chicken wings. You know what I mean? And he's gonna try and get me in there, and then he's gonna go downstairs and take a nap or go step in a recliner. And it's like, well, you know,
Right.
at some point in time, I can be as nice as I can be. I can vomit out a rainbow, and people will take it negative, man. You know, like
I think we're the same.
I always try to say that to them. And if guys are in this situation where you're working with somebody that's overweight and eating like crap, like I always plug that in. Like, hey, man, you're here for me just as much as I'm here for you.
Right.
You know, and I need you to be physically fit so you can come get me so I can go home to my family. Or we can get in there and get that kid when the building's burning down, or get that person's family member or whatever. You know, just be physically fit to do anything, you know, and I try to put that into account every time I eat a meal, especially when I'm at work.
Yeah, I'm sure.
My days at work my line is extremely regimented. I think it works great for us, you know, and I don't want to talk anything about my other lines. I think those guys are all great. They do their own thing. It's their thing. It is what it is. But, you know, I try to keep my turn kind of military-esque. You know, I come in an hour early every morning and get my day ready. I fill out a paper like this that has a ton of check boxes of all the things we have to do in the morning. I have the payroll done. I have all my paperwork done, ready to go, you know, so I can meet with my deputy fire chief in the morning, and him and I kind of go through the day. And then I meet with my guys. We do our morning briefing, and, you know, we talk about the day of what the tasks we have to get done. We always meet at 11 a.m. and we do some type of firefighter training, rescue training, medical training. And it's not easy, the stuff we do. You know, I put them guys through the ringer with that training, and they do it. And then we typically, you know, we eat our lunches, and, you know, the guys handle whatever else we have to handle throughout the day and calls. But in the evening, you know, I push my crew to work out, and anyone who's working with us to work out. If it's a volunteer, they're doing a shift with us, I encourage them to work out with us, and we go hard. And, but that's the thing about it. You're at work, and a fire can come in right now. A lot of guys are like, I don't want to work out when I'm at work. Well, I want to be able to do an extremely hard workout and leave that workout and be able to go fight a fire, because we could have a day right now where I'm doing 2 or 3 rescues. I ran a medical. You know, we do get fires and Peters. I know people don't think we do. We do, and we get more than you think.
Yeah.
I want to be able to handle all that, and working out hard, and then going to be able to fight a fire. We had 2 weeks ago. We did a wicked workout, and that night we had a really good, you know, fire, and we ran through it like nothing. We fought that entire fire with 6 guys.
Nice.
You know, that's what we have.
That's it.
So, Chip, let me ask you. I know obviously you're very disciplined on what you do, and your crew seems like they're on board with you. But you mentioned like a volunteer coming in, trying to encourage them to to work out with you guys. But what do you say to somebody that you know wants to get started to get physically fit, or, you know, to head that path, but they just feel like they're overwhelmed by like getting to that point? Like, where do you start at?
The biggest thing, you're exactly right, Keith, is that people get overwhelmed. You know, a lot of personal trainers want to slam them with all this stuff. And every time that I had a new client, when I did personal training, you got to start out small. You got to start with small, little tiny increments, because what's going to happen? You're going to jump in there, you're going to start doing these cleans and presses and deadlifts, and you're trying to do the weight that, you know, CrossFit put on the website that day, and then you blow your back out. And that's why chiropractors love CrossFit, because these people come into these CrossFit gyms, and these CrossFit trainers just throw the whole load at them, and they're not ready for that. So it's very important to scale all your workouts, and especially starting out. Like, just go for a walk. Start there. Go for a walk. Pay attention to your diet. Eat less. We're Americans, so it's just we eat as much as we can in big portion sizes. You know, eat less, eat smaller portion sizes. And just doing that alone, you're gonna be like, you'll start losing weight, and then start scaling it up from there. Start adding some light weight training into it. And when I mean light weight training, the most important thing you can do is to have great form. You know, if you are an Olympic power lifter, and those people can lift tremendous amounts of weight because of their form that they have, and on top of being very strong and disciplined in what they do. But the form is key. So you can't move on and move forward if you're throwing your back around or you're bench pressing, you're throwing the weight over your head, or you're squatting terribly, you're going to get hurt. And then you're going to instantly be done working out. It's over at that point. Oh, I'm not getting hurt. I don't want to do that. Or that personal trainer pushed me too hard. You got to let them know that if you do go to a personal trainer, that they got to know your limits. So definitely you want to start small and you want to just kind of scale it up from there. And there's so many workouts out there. There's so many gyms. There's an insane amount of personal trainers that need more people to come, be members of these gyms. So there's a ton of stuff out there. There's 8 million workouts. I could sit here and talk about it all day, but for firefighting, it's functional fitness. It's high intensity stuff. That's what we do. And that's what we should focus on as a job. But if my biggest thing for anyone who wants to get into fitness is take it small, make sure your form's good, and then build from there. You got to have a good foundation before you can build a house on it, right?
Yep.
That goes for everything. It goes for our training. It goes for building your line. It goes for physical fitness.
So I know you mentioned a little bit about mental health also, but I sort of want to transition to that a little bit because I know there's some more you want to talk about mental health. And you had mentioned Doug, not to get into Doug's whole story, but I know Doug had some struggles with some of the calls he was on towards the end of his career. So what's your thoughts on mental health and the public safety?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a huge problem. I don't have to sit here and tell any of you guys this. I've had multiple friends at this point take their own life, and I'm quite frankly sick of it. There's enough help out there. It's heartbreaking. I feel for these guys, and a lot of times, I've had long conversations with these guys before they've taken their lives, and I've had long conversations with their families, after they've taken their lives. Unfortunately, I've been involved in some pretty crappy scenarios with it, and you hate to see it. And it's a huge ripple effect. You think personally that it's a selfish act. You think that nothing else can fix you, nothing can help you, but there's so many resources out there with the IFF, the Center for Excellence. Your insurance card has a number on the back that is a hotline for any of this stuff. And there's just so much stuff out there right now in the firefighting realm to help you with mental health that this should never be a problem in regards to these guys taking their lives or these girls taking their lives. And we need to fix the problem. And I know the IFF and the PPFFA and a lot of those guys are taking the right steps to do it. And each guy needs to do that and recognize it and not be afraid to say that, hey, I have a mental health problem because I'm embarrassed by it.
That's the biggest thing. Our alpha personalities won't let it happen.
Yeah, it's a sign of weakness, right, Gene?
Yep.
You're not gonna judge me differently because I said it. But
right.
My crew, I've always been open about it. I was diagnosed with PTSD. I have anxiety issues. Can be a complete and utter psychopath. But I constantly part of it stems from the job, and all my guys are keyed into it. All my guys, and even I talk about the 4 guys in my term, but all the guys in my department are keyed into this thing. They're all about it. But my guys especially talk a lot. We have a bad call, we sit down, we talk about it. One of my guys is a medic. I know he has a bad call. Text him, hey man, you good? And even if he's working in a different department, he's working a concert right now, I think. So, and he sees a ton of stuff all the time. And we got to make sure that our guys are all keyed in with each other. And They all go to every one of them guys goes to counseling. All 4 of the guys in my turn all have counselors, and they may have done it on their own, but I made sure that, hey man, you guys should probably do this because it helps to go talk to somebody and get this stuff off your chest. Not like just sitting there. When I was a kid, I would just throw it up, and not think anything of it. And I would drink nonstop. And I had Keith, you said something to me one time. It weighed on me. I had come back to Pleasant Hills, and I was just sitting there, and you'd come into the office and said, hey man, you're still a big drinker. And I was like, I still was at the time, but I'm like, God, man, that's the reputation I have. I haven't seen this guy in a couple of years, and this is what he says. You know what I mean? But I thank you for it because it does. I think about that. And I'm like, I made a really crappy reputation for myself, but I was partying, having a good time, but I was also self-medicating, and it took till December 3rd of 2022 for me to recognize that you can't be drinking at 9 in the morning, once you get off work and drink all day, we're masking these problems, and we try to, guys fall into drugs, unfortunately, and gambling and prostitution, and guys get addicted to whatever, and they try to mask it all. And it's a huge problem because there's just so much help out there. Just
Chris,
talking to somebody helps out tremendously. I had a counselor appointment this morning. I talked to the guy for an hour and I leave that and I'm like, all right, man, like I feel better,
Chris, if I could interrupt real quick, if you went down the path of thinking about the psychedelics that some of the warriors, some of the special operations guys, the Ibogaine, the clinics they have?
Yeah. I have looked into that. My wife is huge into holistic medicine.
Yeah.
My wife has a medical marijuana card. I can't use medical marijuana or any of that stuff because I get drug tested constantly at work. We have Class A or Class B CDLs, and we're required to do that. I know that fortunately you guys have the ability to have those medical marijuana cards, and some do. A lot of the locals do. Unfortunately, we can't. I feel like there's a lot of good to it. I feel like there's some negative to it too. My wife is actually huge on that in regards to someone to talk to about it. A lot of my anxiety and mood issues I have, unfortunately, I never abused my wife, but she was around it, and it caused her to be anxious because she didn't know what she was going to get when I would come home from work, or just when I would wake up in the morning. You don't know what kind of person you're going to get. So it actually caused her to have anxiety, and she uses medical marijuana to kind of help that out. And
it's not funny. I'll be honest with you. I'll tell everybody here now. I have my medical marijuana card, and I'm not ashamed to admit that I do. I mean, I'll be honest. It saved my life. There's no doubt in my mind that it saved my life. And I don't use it recreationally. I use it medicinally. Very regimented. We could go into another whole episode on that, but yeah, we're fortunate enough to be able to have ours. Yes.
Yeah, my wife's same way, Gene. Uses it as a medicine.
Right. Yep.
I worry about that stuff because I have an addictive personality, and I'll take it to an extreme or something. So I don't do it, and I wouldn't jeopardize my job with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I get drug tested an insane amount for some reason. And it might be that they think I'm on drugs. I'm not. I've never felt a drug test ever, and I would tell them if I was. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a ton of help out there, and
there is.
That can go on forever. Hopefully Aaron Rodgers can bring some light to this thing with the ayahuasca.
Yeah, well, that's the same as Ibogaine and all those derivatives.
He's now a North Shore resident too, that's close to us. But regardless of that,
is he really? Nice.
Yeah, there's out there in regards to that helping people out, and I don't believe in medications in regards to that. I was on a ton of anxiety and depression medications, and I got off all of them because it caused me to be addicted to them and had a ton of side effects to where I just didn't feel like I was a person. And I feel like it caused me to have more depression. And what helped me is physical fitness, working out, which instantly reduces my anxiety, instantly reduces depression. Those ice baths have taken me off of all medication. I'm telling you, you guys have to try it one day. Even taking a cold shower, it has taken me away from all that. And that's kind of how I combat all that. And then my faith with Jesus Christ has really taken me to levels that I never thought I didn't come into faith really deep until about 3 years ago. And it has changed my life. My counselor I go to is a faith-based counselor, and everything we do is focused towards the Bible in regards to how I deal with my recovery with stuff and how I deal with my mental health. And, it's the blueprints in the Bible. And if you got to read it and someone can teach it to you, or you can learn it yourself, it really does tell you how to plug this stuff when you guys concert or Bible thump anybody. But religion has
I got mine on.
changed me as a person. I can tell you that in a positive. So,
Hey, Chip, I want to circle back on one thing you mentioned too. You were talking about talking to your guys when you have a bad call, asking if things are okay, need to talk. Sometimes I think over my career, though, I sort of notice it's not necessarily always the bad calls that are the ones that really affect you. It's just the ones that you don't think that are going to affect you that just over the years, they just start to add up. And I used to always use an analogy that I know they use all the time about like a barrel of water, filling up with water, a barrel. Yeah. That it just eventually something just triggers it and it just overflows. It could be the simplest call that you're on that just puts you over the edge. So yeah, I mean, sometimes the shocking calls, everybody's always checking on you. You okay? Sometimes it's the more mundane calls that might be really affecting the people or might be building up. I wanted to add that. And then also we were talking about the operator syndrome. Do you want to go into that some?
Yeah, I mean, recently I saw one of the city firemen posted it. I mentioned it, but I saw Dan Barr had posted it. I started reading it. I sent it to my guys. Hey, read this article. Try to do some research on it, and I looked into it. It has a lot to do with PTSD and PTSI. They're calling it more of an injury now. The operator syndrome started because of Navy SEALs and Green Beret, all those guys. A lot of military stuff, and it kind of bleeds in. There's also firefighter syndrome too. It's kind of the same thing as an operator syndrome. If you guys research it, it comes up as well. But it has a lot of the same things as PTSI, in regards to like intrusive thoughts and being hyperactive and overreactive, avoidance, negative thoughts. I mean, there's a ton of stuff in regards to that. But we're always keyed in, especially working 24-hour shifts. It's hard to shut it off. And my guys and I kind of talked about this, and I talked to my counselor about it today as well for him to start looking into it because it's very interesting. And for instance, I got off a 24-hour shift yesterday. It was a normal shift, wasn't overly busy. We ran a couple calls, but I always sleep like crap at work. But I need to find a way when I get off work to kind of shut it off, and it's really difficult. I came home, I was short with my wife. I had to then reevaluate what was going on, and I have to bring myself back in. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry, you know what I mean? Because you're keyed in all the time, and you can be short sometimes of that, and you become irritable, and it really is a problem. And that operator syndrome really, I think, relates very well to firefighters because it just checks all the boxes. Those guys, are overseas. They're over there nonstop. They're constantly getting sent back over. It's hard. I haven't been through that. I wasn't in the military, but I never got deployed like those guys did. And it's got to cause an insane amount of problems for you. And I think that relates back with the firefighters. We're seeing horrible things. With us at Peters, we go on all medical calls, so we're involved in all the medical stuff too. So we're constantly dealing with that. You're sleeping. We have weird downtimes at Peters, but we don't get a lot of rest. We get a little bit of rest. You're down for 2 hours. All of a sudden, boom. It's 2 a.m. and you're riding on a fire truck 30 seconds later, right? And
we're in a building.
And now I'm in a building a minute later, and it's like, all right, now I'm yanking somebody out, or I'm doing CPR on somebody, or I'm cutting a car apart, or I'm hanging over a hillside, or I'm doing a swift water rescue in the middle of the night. And the amount of chemicals that get released in your body is insane, and it throws the chemical imbalances off in your body so bad, and it causes all these issues the firemen have in regards to the depression and the anxiety and the bipolar disorders. And the schedule has a lot to do with it, but it all relates back and forth between like this PTSI and this operator syndrome. It correlates so well together, and it correlates to what all these guys' problems are, and trying to find, the fix to that is key. And physical fitness and diet and health and counseling and religion is all things that cure these problems and helps you deal with it. We're never going to cure it, right?
No.
So we're always going to have that problem, but recognizing it and knowing how to deal with it is instead of reaching for alcohol or reaching whatever, cocaine or heroin or whatever these guys are getting themselves locked into, and it's difficult.
I took one thing out of a class that I took, survival class that I took, a train-the-trainer program through the IFF, and then I developed my own programs. But one of the greatest things I took out of that program, and you can relate to this, Chris, because you might have been through that program or whatever, but one of the big acronyms that they use, or I don't even know if they use the word acronym anymore, but it's BOA, BOA, and that all stemmed out of the special forces, namely the SEALs and the Delta guys. But what it is BOA, BOA, like a snake. The first is B, breathe, and I use this in my entire life. Breathe, take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. Just stop for a second. Take a deep breath. The O is for organize your thoughts. So what is going through your brain right now? Is it good or is it bad? And the other one is then act on it. So when you do those BOA, the breathe, the organize, and then the act, you're bringing your heart rate down, but you're also checking yourself almost. And that BOA will come right into my thought process right as I open the garage door coming home after my 24. Sometimes it works. And Michelle, I'm sure you're watching. She'll let you know when it sometimes it doesn't. I'm sorry, Chris. Go ahead.
No, you're good.
Well,
Yeah.
real quick, Chris, too. And I think this is part of it. Like my understanding of operator syndrome too is that you're just always sort of on, and you think something's always going to happen. You're just always on guard and stuff. So if that's the case, being in public safety, you always think something bad is going to happen, or you're just always on guard.
Right.
How do you turn it off when you're not working, or you're not on shift, or not going to a call? I mean, how do you turn it off and try not to let that bother you?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really hard question, Keith. We actually talked about this at work the other day because the way our schedules work, you're 24 on, you get off, you're still in that mindset the entire 24 hours, and then the next 24 hours, you're gearing your mind up to go back in for the next 24. So trying to shut it off, it's difficult. But, the way I shut it off is I come home and I really have to focus when I walk in that door to not be short or snap. I need to come in the door and hug my wife, kiss her, relax, okay, everything's good. I'm at home. I can take this, the work mindset being keyed in, and I can shut it off, at least try to, and the big thing for me is having that schedule for the day, that way I can relieve my brain, and I have a regimented schedule how to keep things together, that I'm not having downtime and I'm not thinking about this stuff nonstop, and my brain's not racing. I'm not having all these racing thoughts about work. But then getting into working out and just, beating yourself up, beating it out of you is the way I look at it. If I'm having a bad day, I really try to push that workout and it releases all those endorphins in your body to make you feel better, right? And to calm you down. And I can instantly go from being anxious and being up and hyperactive and do a workout and feel significantly better. And doing some meditation. Gene talked about breathing. I do a ton of breathing. They teach everyone that in the military and all the operators how to do that. It's very important. The meditation for me is prayer, but I do the breathing with that. And I do the breathing when I'm in that ice bath. That's all part of it. The Wim Hof method. I don't know if you guys can look that up, but that's kind of where I got that from. This gentleman, his wife she'd killed herself, and he went and looked all these holistic ways to kind of relieve depression and anxiety, and that's one of them. So for me to shut down, those are all the key parts. It's diet, it's fitness, and it's doing counseling, and it's just talking out of your system. And I had to go to my wife, and I had to tell her, you need to, if you see me coming in that door, you have to come up and hug me. That way it can kind of trigger something in my mind. This is kind of what my counselor taught me and told me what to do, that you come give me a hug and show me some type of love. That way my brain can be like, okay, I'm at home. You know what I mean? I'm with loved ones. We're not keyed in. We're not having to run down the street and do something right now, and that's kind of how I shut it off, Keith. I mean, I can go over about that, but that's what I do.
My recent thing is I have this beautiful baby in my life now, and my granddaughter, and that hug at 9 a.m. or 8:30 in the morning, Athena, when she comes down those steps and gives me that hug, all of those worries go away. It's like drugs. It really is. Because it's just that hug is amazing. I look forward to it every single day of my life.
Yeah, it's very important, and
And hugs from Michelle too, by the way.
Yeah, right. It's good to have the support of my family. My daughters are the same way. They've been overly supportive, and I've done a lot of work with my oldest daughter. She had some issues when she was younger. We've worked through that, and now she's the most loving kid. And but yeah.
Hey, Chip, there's a couple more questions I want to get in before we wrap up. But what changes would you like to see in the fire service to better support both physical and mental health?
Yeah, I mean, there has to be very put together protocols that we have. The IFF is starting to get this in play. The PPFA is starting to work hard and getting this stuff passed and putting things in place to help us out. But we have a bad call. We have to have all these things in place for each individual department. They have to have, if I say I have a problem, all right, here's the paperwork. Let's go do it right now. All right, you got a drinking problem? All right, get in a ride. Gene, we've all been through this. I'm taking you to rehab right now. But we have to all be supportive of that, and we have to have these things in place, and these resources have to be readily available, like instantly. Because I can tell you have a problem, and at this point, I've had this problem for 6 months, and I now just got to a point where I tell you I have a problem, and then I go home and I take my life. We have to be able to, all right, man, stop right there. Let's go. We'll get you into something right now. There's just an insane amount of programs out there. A month ago, somebody called me, and it was someone we all know and is a dear friend to all of us, and he's been struggling. And he called me up, and we got him into the Cleveland Clinic's rehab. And I drove him out there. And, all right, man, this is it. It's on you now. But
I hope he's doing well.
It's very important you have these things in place. All of our departments need to have the protocol and how to deal with it, and it needs to be set, and everybody needs to know it. And we have to train on it and understand that. I think we should bring in some type of counseling quarterly, for the guys, just to talk to them and teach them how they should deal with this stuff. Even if you did it twice a year, and show them how to deal with these things they're going to see. We have a lot of young guys in the fire service, and they think they're all gung-ho until they're caked in blood and they're pulling a dead baby out and pulling the skin off them. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they have that image in their head, and their kids are in the fire service at 18 years old fighting fires. That'll ruin some of these kids. I mean, a lot of these kids are been coddled their entire lives by their families. But you got to have these programs in place.
Vetting before they come on the job is a big thing for me.
Right.
Because, you're right. Generationally, people are just different. Not good or bad. They're just different.
I had the ability to grow up with you guys as people to follow after. You know what I mean? And I thank you guys for what you've done for me. And I listened to everything you said, and I tried not to talk back and be a dickhead back to you. And a lot of times these younger guys think they got it all figured out. And
I have a son like that.
Right.
No, he's a good kid. The heart of gold. Thank you.
Step back and just I love all their insight on things. It's great because they know a ton. They do a ton of training. It's great. But, a lot of times I came in, I had a call like that. I know exactly how to handle this. So just put your top lip to the bottom lip and be quiet, right? We'll get through this.
Yep.
And it's hard for those guys to do it. I mean, the younger generation just wants to be heard, wants to be seen, wants to be on social media, yard shepherding it up, and all I want to do is put the fire out and go back home. You know what I mean? So I think that those guys need to take this really to heart in regards to getting into physical fitness early. I think firefighters should be like athletes. That we, especially nowadays with so much minimum staffing stuff that we deal with, there's only a couple of us, and we have to be able to save ourselves. And I think it's imperative that these departments focus on putting in programs. Pleasant Hills did it. We had gyms there. You guys paid for our gym memberships and having those things in place and pushing that. Now, guys, that's stupid. I don't want to do it. You have to do this. You have to work out. We have it on our contract. We can work out and do these things, and we need to put these policies in place that these guys have to stay physically fit. I have to pass a test every year, and I have to do it on a certain amount of time. And if I don't do it, then I don't have a job. So guys have to really focus on this stuff and focus on training. But I don't know if that answers your question, Keith. I can just
yeah, but actually, my last question sort of is basically what you were just talking about. But if you gave one piece of advice to newer firefighters or younger firefighters about taking care of themselves, what would it be?
Yeah, diet, nutrition early. We all smoked. I think I smoked for years. Chewed tobacco. Don't do that. I know you think you look cool, but it's going to affect you in the long run. My dad has stage 4 cancer right now, and he smoked and dealing with that. And you don't want to see that. You don't want to see your family members go through that. Firemen, one of 3 of us is going to get cancer, so I really don't want to add to it. So watch that stuff. Don't be drinking a Mountain Dew at 2 a.m. The biggest one you can find. Watch the energy drinks. But these guys really have to try and get a mindset of, you're a firefighter, you're essentially an athlete. This is a very high demanding, stressful job, and firemen die constantly because of heart-related injuries on the job because they're grossly out of shape. And we have to stop that at some point in time. So these guys really need to start focusing on physical fitness and their health and getting into talking to each other about calls right off the bat and not being, oh, it's weak. I'm tough. I got it all right here. And no, that stuff's building up in there, and wait till it comes out because it's not fun, and typically, you resort to alcohol. It's great to drink, man. I don't anymore. I miss drinking every day of my life. I wish I could have a drink right now, but I just don't do it because I know what it does to me. I know what it does to my family, and I turn into a complete and total different person, and it's just not good to be around. And it's dangerous to be around. But just watch that. You guys can still drink, but just don't get to that level. And train as much as you can. Don't stop training. Train. This is a job that from the day you start it to the day you retire, you can never stop learning something. Every day my crew learns something. Every day I learn something from my crew. We learn something every day. You just can't. It's one of the coolest jobs in the world. It's the best job in the world. I don't know how you can say it's not. And unfortunately, it has some negative side effects. But you just got to keep training. Take every class that's out there that you can manage time-wise. And then if you're new, keep your top lip to the bottom lip, right?
Yep.
Keep quiet, listen, if you're in training, don't be like, oh, I know that, because you'll get exposed, especially with minimum staffing. Because at 2 a.m, I tell you to do that, and you just told me a training, you knew how to do it, and then I find out you don't know how to wrap 3, pull 2, and I'm like, you just told me you know how to do it.
Right.
Cool guy. Put your hands on everything and learn everything. And I did that when I was younger. I know how to do that. And then you get exposed, and then all of a sudden it's like you're sitting in front of Dan Heck, and it's like, oh man, we were at a vehicle accident with entrapment, and I couldn't remember how to start the power plant. And and Baldwin did the extrication and which was fine, but I screwed up big time, because I said that training, I'm good, I know how to do it, and then I didn't, and I embarrassed myself. And he let me know about it, and he damn well should have, And don't be that guy. That's all I can say.
All right. Well, I think that was awesome. That was a lot of great information. I think it was a great episode.
Yeah, man. It's good seeing you, brother.
Yeah, good seeing you guys.
Anything else you want to add before you go, Chip?
No, man. I just stay safe, and there's a ton of help out there. Do not take your life, and keep working out. You know what I mean? Remember, it's a brotherhood. We're all brothers. We all love each other. Stop talking shit behind everyone's back. We all do it, but at least do it to their face. Do it to their face.
If you see a black van pulling up in front of your firehouse and a bunch of guys with ski masks jumping out and grabbing Russell, you know what's up.
We're like, all right, boys, see ya. All right, man. I appreciate it, guys.
All right,
brother.
Chip. Thanks a lot.
All right, take care.
You too. Well, it was very informative. Chip had a lot of good information. I just want to say too, we'll put the links, some of the information we're flashing up on the screen while Chip was talking about the resources available for just mental health in Pennsylvania, and it's actually public safety geared towards public safety. The numbers that we're up on the screen, so we'll put the links in the YouTube channel for anybody who wants to reach out and get some of that information. But yeah, I definitely encourage if anybody's struggling with something, reach out and talk to somebody about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And my take on, Chris is amazing physical fitness. We have a lot of guys in my department that are big into physical fitness. And I always tell them at the dinner table every night when we're having dinner at the firehouses, Don't eat more than your face piece can hold. It's pretty good way of living.
Just some things for the channel. Anybody has any videos that they'd like us to feature on the channel, you can send it to us. Our email address for more information on that is thirdduefirst@gmail.com. So you can email us and I'll get you a link to send us the videos. We want to feature it on our channel. And if we do feature one of your videos on channel, we'll be entered into a drawing to win some of the great stuff that we're going to be getting from one of our sponsors, which is FireCam.com. And I encourage you to go check their site out and look at their products. They got some good stuff. And I know their FireCams work awesome. They make some good videos because I've seen a lot of young guys show off their videos that they have. So,
Right.
that's pretty much all I have, unless you have anything, Gene.
I'd like to end it with a quote from one of my favorite people. His name was Bill Withers. He was a singer in the 70s, and he had a documentary some years ago, and it was called Still Bill. But in that interview or in that documentary, he had this quote, and it was so amazing. And it says, "It's okay to head out for wonderful, but on the way to wonderful, you're going to pass through all right. And when you get to all right, look around a little bit because you might not go any further than that." I love that quote.
Yeah, that's all right. All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining. We'll catch you next week on Wednesday at 7 p.m. for our next episode.
Peace. Try not to suck.